Welcome to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast, your trusted source for simple strategies to improve your mental and physical fitness. Throughout this podcast, we will discuss how you can manage your mental health by practicing mental fitness, building emotional resilience and curiosity to handle life's challenges. We'll also highlight the crucial link between physical fitness and your overall mental well-being. My name is DJ Ligori, and I want you to realize that you are not alone with this challenge. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and welcome to today's episode. All right, let's rip it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. We are on episode number 121, and my name is DJ Ligori. And thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Today's episode, I'm going to tell a quick story that happened to me, actually happened for me. Let me change my language there. Happened for me a couple weeks ago that really taught me a super valuable lesson. And I'm going to connect it to social media. And I think we will all be able to really relate to how social media has changed us and how it has really changed the way that we want others to view us and how we ultimately actually want to influence others' perception of how they view us. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was at a beautiful rooftop bar with a couple friends. First time I had ever gone to this bar. And there were a bunch of girls, there were probably like 8 girls that walked into this bar, and they went immediately to the edge of the rooftop bar and started taking these pictures. And they were like posing, and then like their friends would like quickly take these pictures. And it was kind of like they were acting like they were having way more fun than they actually were. And I was watching them take these pictures, and I was kind of just like shaking my head, like, what are they doing? Like, this is ridiculous. And a friend of mine was sitting next to me, and she saw that I was looking over at these girls, essentially judging them. And she said to me, she goes, "Who cares?" And I was silent. She said, "Who cares what they're doing?" She said, "They're not bothering us. So why does it really matter?" And I sat there and I realized in that very moment, she was 100% right. And I realized that I was actually letting their actions bother me. I'd actually given them the control over me. And I was completely unaware of that. And I looked over at my friend. I said, "You are 100% right." And I said, "Thank you." I said, "I missed that." And I realized the whole rest of the night, like I was super aware to this, like if I was judging people, right? And, or if they were judging me. And this is a concept that we talk a lot about in our mental fitness program of judging ourselves, others, and circumstances. And I realized that my judgment was based upon how I would act or how I would behave. And I was projecting that judgment onto others. And after this night, we actually had a Acres of Diamonds monthly mindset mastery session that week. And I decided to make that week's topic on judgment because I had learned so much from that night and was so grateful of my friend to actually mention that to me and to think about how I might judge others when I see them on social media, or if I even see them out at a bar and things like that. And I realized that when we're judging others, we are basically saying, this is what I would not do, right? So what you are doing right now is what I would not do, or I would not behave that way. And that's why we then judge them, because their behavior is not aligning with our behavior. And so when I realized that, when we kind of got to this realization of that's what we're doing when we're judging people, think back to what my friend said. Okay, who cares? Who cares if they're not acting the way that I would act? Who cares if they're not behaving or talking the way that I think is proper when it comes to behavior and talking? Or who cares what they post on social media because it doesn't align with what I post on social media? Like, who really gives a shit? If it's not affecting you, why do we give it so much energy? Why do we let them ultimately have the power over us? And so here's where it becomes really interesting, where I really kind of started to dive into this point. Because of social media today, everybody has the ability to actually create a perception of themselves in an effort to positively influence others. So the content that we put out into our social media atmosphere, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever, is what we are deliberately choosing to show people and say, here's what I want you to think about me. When I was actually preparing for this podcast, I thought about, I was like, in the 1800s, I bet you they didn't judge people that much because they probably didn't meet a lot of people. And they only really had probably a small sphere of influence, maybe 5 to 10 people. And they didn't have access to millions of people in the palm of their hand to judge what they thought was right versus what they thought was wrong. So shout out to everybody who lived in the 1800s. You guys probably were super nice and not that judgmental to each other. So anyways, but I just kind of randomly thought about that. And so social media gives us this inside look into everyone's life. So it's a billboard of judgment, right? We can judge anybody on social media based upon what we think is right and what they are basically presenting back to us. And so as we create this personality on social media, we want to be perceived, probably, this is what I'm assuming, as sexy, as attractive, as smart, as strong, as successful, as we know where we're going with life and we're taking action towards actually creating that, because then that gives off confidence and strength. And we want other people to associate those terms with us. If you kind of break that down, it makes total sense. The question now becomes, all right, what do I perceive as strong? Or what do I perceive as authentic? And so when I really started to understand how social media worked, how it was basically a tool, and we could use it in a way to judge others and maybe even cause some stress and some anxiety in ourselves as we judge others and compare their lives to ours. And if there's a gap there, right, that's where that stress and anxiety could kick in. Or if there's a gap the other way, right, where we actually feel like we're above this person and it actually helps us, right? That's an interesting thing to kind of think about. So what I tried to do was, when I started to realize what was actually going on with the way that we wanted to be perceived on social media, I tried to actually be more vulnerable. And so just me talking about how I was judging these nice women, right, who I'd never met before, I was judging these women, is me actively trying to be vulnerable and show where I needed some work, where I needed some additional coaching. And thank God my friend was there to help me through that. And so I have like a great life. I'm healthy, right? I love working out. I'm I'm passionate about what I do and how I do it through Acres of Diamonds and mental fitness training, and that stuff is really important to me. And I have a great life because I have great people around me, and that to me is beautiful, and I'm very grateful for that. And I want to also add, there are things that I genuinely struggle with. There are things that I struggle with when it comes to building meaningful relationships. There are things that I struggle with when it comes to building a really impactful business. There are things that I struggle with when it comes to financials and feeling smart, feeling strong. There's all these things that I'm still challenged with and I'm still struggling with. And I try to be authentic when it comes to conveying that on social media. And I actually had a comment on somebody, or I had a comment on one of my recent posts, and somebody said, "I love how vulnerable your content is." And when I read that comment, I actually found the person and I messaged her back and said, "Hey, I just want to say thank you. Like, this is the whole goal of what I'm trying to use this platform for. And I just really appreciate you making a note of that." And I just wanted to let her know how grateful I was to her for making that comment. And I think when we use social media in this way of, I'm not trying to make you ridiculously impressed with me. I'm not trying to make you enamored by who I am, what I do, and what I stand for. I think we actually allow people to realize that they're not alone. And if we are vulnerable enough to publicly share something that we might be struggling with, we can actually connect through that challenge. And we can realize that we're all kind of working on similar things in our life, whether it is financial challenges, relationship challenges, professional challenges. The challenges will always be there, and we will all handle them in different ways. And sometimes it's nice to know that other people are kind of challenged with those things as well. And that's where I think of social media is such a great platform to actually use this, to be authentic, to be genuine, to not only share your wins, share your successes, yet also share the things that we actually might be challenged with, share the things that we actually might be struggling with. Because then that person who's looking at your profile is going to say, okay, this is awesome. I don't feel weird anymore. I don't feel different anymore. I don't feel like I'm struggling with some random thing that is super unique to me that I actually can't talk about to anybody with. It's great to know that DJ is challenged with this thing as well too. Right. And that's where I think like social media can be so beautiful and so fantastic. So I realized the social media aspect really connected to the way that I was judging these women, because in this mastermind group that I was a part of in the next week, we were talking about they were probably taking pictures to post on Instagram. And one of the guys in the group said, how do we know that they're not an influencer and they actually need to take those pictures? Or those pictures were to promote a certain product or to maintain a certain business profile. And I, in my head, I'm like, I don't know. Right. I don't know if that was actually the reason they were doing it. Yet I was judging it based upon my lens of it. Right. And that's where I think we muddy the waters. We are all looking at everything through our own lens, through our own behaviors and what we think is right and what we think is wrong. And I can guarantee those girls have different behaviors and different beliefs and different ideas than I do. And they probably think some things are right that I don't think are right, and vice versa. Right. So now can we see how social media creates this one-stop shop of here's how I want you to perceive me. And we then take all of our beliefs, our ideas, and throw it onto this profile, onto this person, and have the ability to now judge them. And I want to make an additional comment to this. It's really hard not to judge someone because we are approaching them, like I said, from our lens, from our perspective. And our brain is wired for survival. So when we see something that doesn't align with us, we immediately think, all right, threat, right? They're going against us. They're not on our team. When really, it's not a threat. They're not going against us, and they could be on your team, right? It's because you're judging them based upon what you believe is right and what you believe is wrong. And so I want to just wrap this up with the idea of being aware of when we are judging people, and just understanding it's really just because they're doing something that we might not necessarily agree with ourselves. And that's okay, right? It's okay for everybody to act and behave in the way that they want to act and behave. We don't have to let that bother us. We don't have to let that affect us until it actually like literally affects us. Then we can take action with it. Yet until it gets to that point, who cares? Just let them do their thing. Let them be their person. Let them find their way. And the last thing is just social media just gives us that inside look into how people ultimately want us to view them, which is okay. Yet just know we're all probably going through something. Everybody has their own challenges, and it's up to them if they want to make them public. I'm not saying, hey, throw everything out there. I'm just saying this is how I have personally decided to use this platform because I think it can have a greater good. And like I said in podcast number 118, I think it was 118, we're all going to die one day. And our social media accounts are probably not going to be too popping once we're gone. So while we're here, why not use these things to actually benefit people? Why not use these things to actually help others? And why not use these things to actually allow others to realize that they are not alone with the things that they are challenged with? So I want to say thank you to those 8 girls who took those pictures at that bar. And I want to say thank you to very grateful for my friend for coaching me through my blind spot and the thing that I was struggling with. And I think it really provided a greater lesson to me and something that I want to continually work towards reinforcing as I grow, into my own personal world, my own personal endeavors. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode number 121 of the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. If you got some value out of this episode, I kindly ask that you give it a rating or you share it with all of your really judgmental friends. And maybe they can get something out of it too, right? Give it a rating, give it a share, give it a review. Always super, super grateful for anybody who takes the time to do that. So thank you very much for your time and your energy. Everybody have a great week, and we will talk to you guys soon. We'll see you. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. If you received something interesting from today's episode, we would kindly appreciate if you could leave us a rating or a review, or even share this podcast with someone you believe needs to hear its message. The Libraries and Weight Rooms brand is a division of our parent company, Acres of Diamonds, where we are on a mission to end mental suffering through mental fitness. If you would like to learn more about our mission and support this cause, please visit our website at www.youracresofdiamonds.com. Take care, keep leading, and we will talk to you soon.